Hi guys, my name is Nonima Digela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Advocate Ronnie Sibanda. Advocate Ronnie Sibanda is the state prosecutor who's working with Advocate Baloyi, who is a senior state prosecutor there by the Senzo case. We're going to take a closer look at State Prosecutor Sibanda right now. Before we do that, guys, please make sure you do not forget to like, to share, to comment. And most importantly, please make sure you are subscribed on the channel. Please make sure you are watching the videos up until the end and you are watching the ads that are coming through. When you are doing that, you are supporting this channel financially and in numbers. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Now, let's get into this. Let me drink some water. Okay, the role, the record, and the procedural fault lines in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. That's what we are looking at him from, okay? Because now I know him from the Senzo Meyiwa trial. So in terms of what will happen if this case goes somewhere? If this case goes somewhere, as Bill Jadrata normally says, if it goes somewhere, Sibanda Lo, who always wants us to believe he's just there. No, he's not just there. We prosecuting what's going to happen to him? Anyway, let's check out what's going right now. What we are, let's frame one thing important framing of something. What we are going to be checking at is the procedural and record-based analysis, okay? Not finding of guilt or misconduct yet, if there is any. Yet, we are not there. The focus is on a courtroom management, prosecutorial decisions, and their legal consequences, as reflected in an open court proceedings and commonly cited principles of South African criminal procedure. That's what we are looking at here. Nothing hectic, I promise, nothing hectic. Firstly, Sibanda's mandate versus the reality on record. As a state prosecutor, Sibanda's constitutional role is clear: present a coherent, fair, and lawful obtained case that assists the court in arriving at the truth. In a matter of this magnitude, the standard is exceptionally high, okay? And he's involved. The criticism that emerges from the trial records is not about zeal, but about control. Witness sequences that compound contradictions instead of clarifying them, failure to preempt evidential weaknesses before witnesses took the stand. He's part of that, guys. Allowing testimony that invited impingement on basics, timelines, scenes, prior statements, all of that, he's part of it. Asquazum treated as if he's a bystander. Why this matters? Prosecutors are not passive note takers. Note that, okay? They must curate the case, they must curate the case so that each witness strengthens rather than destabilizes the state's theory. Secondly, procedural mishaps that weakened the state case. Across the state presentation, several procedural fault lines became apparent. And Sibanda was part of that. A, witness preparation and sequences. Key witnesses appeared insufficiently prepared for obvious credibility attacks. Sequencing allowed later witnesses to contradict earlier ones on material facts. And also, one of the other things that was really shocking there is that no effective rehabilitation followed damaging concessions under cross-examination. And the sequences allowed later witnesses to contradict everything that was already worked on. And the impact when it comes to that, once credibility fractures occur in open court, no amount of closing argument can stitch them back together. He was part of that. He was part of that. B, disclosure and statement inconsistencies. Prior statements clashed with viva voce evidence. Amendments and clarifications appeared reactive, not strategic. Defense counsel exploited gaps with ease, predictably. Legal risk, this opens the door to constitutional challenges under the right to a fair trial and reliable evidence. Point number 3, over-reliance on tainted investigative narratives. A recurring criticism in the state's dependence on investigation-led testimony without sufficient independent corroboration. Investigative witnesses were presented as anchors, not one strand among many. When investigative credibility was attacked, the entire evidentiary structure shook. Prosecutorial restraint, pulling back weak witnesses, was not exercised, and Usibanda was part of that. Prosecutorial duty, the National Prosecuting Authority owns standard emphasis, objective assessment, not case at all cost advocacy, which Usibanda was part of that. Point number 4, courtroom management and judicial intervention. In a trial overseen by Ratamu Kgatleng, judicial frustration with reputation, confusion, and inefficiency was visible on multiple occasions. This raises uncomfortable questions. Did the prosecution anticipate judicial consent and adjust? Were weak lines of evidence persistent despite clear warning signs? Was the court effectively assisted or burdened with all of this? Judges are not there to rescue a case. When they intervene repeatedly, it often signals prosecutorial drift. Point number 5, the strategic cost, appeal and collapse risk. From a purely legal standpoint, procedural mishaps have downstream consequences. Appeal vulnerability, inconsistent evidence plus weak corroboration is equal to fertile ground for appeal. No case to answer exposure if evidence cannot sustain prima facie case. Public confidence erosion. High-profile failures damage truth in the system. Even a conviction secured on a procedural shaky foundation risk being overturned, nullifying years of litigation. Point number 6, the central question. The uncomfortable but necessary question is this: did Sibanda actively steer the state's case toward clarity and legal resilience, or did he allow fragile internal conflicted narratives to unfold unchecked? This is not about personalities. It is about professional standard, constitutional discipline, and the price of procedural laxity in South Africa's most watched murder trial. And the bottom line, the Senzo Meyiwa trial illustrates a hard truth of criminal litigation. A messy prosecution does not just risk acquittal, it risks delegation of the prosecution and also the entire process of the NPA. So, do you think Usibanda was a bystander in the entire situation, or Usibanda was there, present, when everything was happening? And he did nothing. He said nothing. He just was a participant in all of that. So should this case go somewhere? Do you see Usibanda getting away with anything? Do you see Usibanda esinda? Do you see Usibanda not becoming part of whatever problem that is coming? I don't see that happening. I see him as part of the problem. What are your thoughts? Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. I will see you on our next video. Bye-bye.